I'll be sharing my slides. I just wanted to know what are the crowd which is there today. I can see some familiar faces. My own colleague is there. My own classmates are there.
Yeah, so they are mostly PG students. There are a few bachelor students, undergraduate students. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, sir.
Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Is my video off now?
No, it's on. We can
Okay,
see you.
perfect.
Yeah.
So let me start. Okay. Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and I thank SLP Room organizer for providing me an opportunity to speak in this forum. I also thank my PhD guide for allowing me to share some of our work. I also thank my head of the institution. So the topic is computers, smartphones, virtual reality, and aphasia rehabilitation. We'll go. Let's see the content first. What I'll be highlighting. I'll be not presenting everything over here. I have given some of the references which you can go back and see. I'll just give an idea on how are the things which have been implemented in the recent times. So why technology plays an important role in the recent times, that would be something which is very important in current situation. Types of technology in aphasia rehabilitation. There are lots which has been in terms of technology, but what has been seen in aphasia rehabilitation is something which I'll be discussing. How do you choose technology intervention for your clients? Evidence across various technology, computers in aphasia, Western versus Indian scenario. This would be something which needs more attention, and I'll be providing much some data about that. And for people who are interested to develop some intervention, your intervention or the aphasia intervention in your language or into technology domain, how can you see that, and what are the things which you need? And recently we have lots of smartphones and smart tablets. So what are the types and how is the evidence? And the recent technology which has come, that is immersion technology, virtual reality, mixed reality, so many things are there. So I'll be giving a brief on how things are there and how is the evidence or how it is emerging also. So before moving on to the technology, one important aspect is aphasia is more of an heterogeneous condition, and a lot of approaches has been quoted. So we know that we have stimulation approach, cognitive neuropsychological approach, impairment-based approach. I assume there are graduate students and also postgraduate students. You will be learning all these things, but I'll be not focusing on these things. Rather than I can say in aphasia rehabilitation, the standard of care is speech language therapy, and everybody accept all the approaches except now that it has to be intensive. And approximately this is one of the very highly cited study, that is 8.8 hours per week, 1 week 8.8 hours. So in aphasia research they say the shorter duration of high intensity versus a longer duration, that is the intensity spread, there is a difference between that. So if you make the 8.8 hours for 5 6 months, that may not give you some, the evidence is more into the shorter duration type. So if you'd have seen, there are some of ways of such delivery of high intensity, that is intensive aphasia therapy program. These are the recent ones where they call people for around 10 or 15 days of time, and then they give all the approaches and they discharge, and it doesn't go as a chronic or a long term based therapy. What are the reason? I'll be telling you in the next slide. But there are some reasons that is allowing us to know that the intensity of therapy is not as been reported. Some of the reasons are access to SLT services. You know that stroke or TBI also may cause some motor issues, sensory issues, and some of the client related issue, that is economic status and poor family support. So most of the studies, it's not only in India, it's also in US, it's also in Australia, they say it doesn't go with the optimal intensity. Some in the inpatient level, that is acute care level, it is more favoring that SLPs are focusing on dysphagia because that is the immediate care which is required. And at the outpatient level, it is more of the finance. This is from the Australia. Now, when it comes to India, we also have a lot of issues. That is distant location. We do not have much therapy centers. Now it would be changing. Financial issues, poor family support. These are the client-related issues. Now, when it comes to clinician, so there is a lack of availability of trained SLPs. So even the recent Isha directory also you can refer. There are very less SLPs which are working. Now, in the West, the technology was the solution, and this was the rescue for providing intensive therapy. I hope you are able to hear me. If you're not, then let me know.
Yes, yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes. Now, coming back to the technology, I'm sure you people will be knowing what is a computer, what is a smart tablet, and what is a phone. I just put this because to ask you some questions. Whether does this difference in technology is there in aphasia rehab, because that is one thing which I will be presenting and I will be highlighting. And if I would like to ask a question, how many of you have iPad with you now? I'm sure that Apple iPad, much people will not have. Most of the people may have the smartphone, which is the Android version. So, how is the end users in each technology? Does the evidence between each technology, that is computer, that is smart tablets, one version of smart tablet is iPad, and even there are Google tablets which are available. But nowadays there is high use of smartphones, you people all know, because of the recent network connection and availability of the phones. So but whether the difference in evidence is same, that is little, I know, you need to see. And you we cannot take only as, considering that smartphones, considering the users also, you need to know. So I'll be discussing about that in the next coming slides. Now, why technology plays an important role in the recent times? I have already mentioned the intensity of therapy. Some of the tasks, some of the therapy tasks can be implemented as a home therapy plan. But the issue is whether our patients, whether our clients are able to do it, and whether remote access of therapy is available. Now, there are different types of therapy plans which can be seen in technology domain. One is self-delivered therapy. Here, you don't require any clinicians to give therapy. The app, the software, or the computer is suitable to give some domain of therapy. Versus now clinician monitor therapy. I remember we all therapists, or when we were student, we had a lot of pictures, we had a lot of stimulus, we have a lot of bags of pictures and paper and pen. But now when you have some app or some I won't say app, when you have some smart tablets, you can download those apps, download all those pictures, or it can be better than a paper and pen method, but still there is required for some aspect. Now, when some of the therapy can be delivered through an app, the clinicians can work on other aspects. The aphasia therapy currently is beyond the workbook based therapy. You cannot take some 10 pictures or 20 pictures from the your cupboard and just start doing naming. It has come a long way for how we have seen. The recent approaches is like life participation approach. They don't say, okay, you take the workbook, do it, or take the reading task and you can do it. That doesn't happen. One of the most important concept which I have noticed is the insurance. So in India, it's not. I am not sure how is the insurance for speech therapy, but in the abroad, it's something like you do not have insurance facilities at a long-term care. Long-term care in the sense 1 year or 2 years. So you need to think about those, and you need to make sure that your patients are independent, and that is what is the more concept. You don't want patients to come to you again and again, because nowadays it's more of a consumer driven therapy. So the task which can be given as a self therapy can be delivered to the applications, but now the clinicians can work on something which requires more of life participation approach. Now, I am sure that you people would have given stimulus as home therapy or a plan or something. Whether they are doing it, whether they are not doing it, you can monitor. And these are all remote monitoring, and the progress also can be monitored, and the client can have a feedback also. There is one more concept which I have seen, that is the when your clients are aware that they have been monitored, like for example the home therapy task, even this is for even for us also, when you know that our mentors are monitoring us, or even if you go to gym someone is monitoring us, you try to improve faster. So this effect can be true. And what is the therapy delivery? So now each client, I'm sure, each there are no two clients who exhibit the similar profile. Maybe two brokers of Asia may not have a similar profile. The queuing hierarchy may be different. So for one patient you may have to give a semantic based queuing, and for the other patient you may require semantic plus phonological queuing. Some patient may require semantic plus phonological plus orthographic. So you can assess the patient, and based on that what type of queuing hierarchy has to be done, that can be delivered to the application. There are some applications which are available now, and I am not going to say which applications are available. That's I'll tell you where to find and how to find, because I'm not representing any companies or something like that. I'm just providing an evidence on how you can go for that. And usually now the technology is, or the app or the smart apps or the computer is expected to deliver more than paper and pen method. As I told you, we are speech therapists, we require a lot of pictures, we require a lot of pages, we require a lot of A4 sheets, pen, pencil, a lot of things. So this can happen. And if you're going for home therapy, it is usually helpful. Sorry, it is usually helpful for portability and so many things. This is how the technology has been seen now. Next. Now, what are the types of technology in aphasia rehabilitation? I just made a chart so that this is not from any article or this is not from any study. This is only to explain you guys how things are there. Now, broadly, I can classify into computer-based rehabilitation because that was the initial from 1960s, 1980s that has come. And portable, that is AAC device, like you have Avaz in Indian language, Ingraphia in English. So complete AAC device, it can be low tech, high tech, or different. And the recent smart tablets or smartphones. So the computer software is one concept. I'm sure if you go to your desktop, you can check there would be different apps. Those are written in different codes like Java or Python, and it is inbuilt app would be there, and there would be, for example, if you are using statistics, then it will be SPSS or maybe any game or something that is usually written in Java and other things. Those are called computer softwares. So now you also know that we have telerehabilitation, that is using Skype or web page, you can provide therapy, and it is going very, we are using it very high now because of the COVID. I'm not going to explain about telerehabilitation now because I think in the recent presentation they have explained. There are some new technological advances, that is virtual reality. And the same in smartphones, you know that you can still use Skype. I'm sure many people are listening to me through Skype. And there are Android-based applications or iOS-based applications. So now, considering if I want to give in one shot how are the evidences, the computer software has higher evidences, and the application-based, there are smart tablets and smartphones. It's little different. Now coming back, there are softwares, even in computer softwares, where strictly speech therapy based interventions are used. There are softwares which do not use strictly speech therapy based services, however, intended to persons with aphasia. Similarly, for application based, I'm sure you people are using Google Maps, right, to find out where places to go, and even speech to text or Siri app in iOS. The same thing also can be given for persons with aphasia. They are not speech therapy based apps. Those are inbuilt apps. So, and even if someone, for example, a speech therapy technique like semantic features, if it has been implemented in a smartphone, and that is one type. Applications which are implemented and tested for its efficacy, that is one more type. So you need to be very careful on seeing what are the evidences and even how things are done. That I'll be giving you a brief idea on how it is done. I'm sure the types of technology would be clear by now. Now, I know everyone has a phone. I just want you to search the keyword aphasia and let me know in the chat box. I'm not able to see the chat box, but after the presentation, you can let me know how many apps are there. Considering the apps, only the general apps, there are millions and billions of apps. And if you just just search the keyword aphasia, you will see a lot of things. This I searched yesterday, and I got to know, okay, there are so many. Now, when a speech therapist sees, or when a person who doesn't know what is aphasia, or who doesn't know, they would randomly select these apps and they start. So how do you know what app is what? Now, for example, there is a language therapy app, there is a speech therapy app, and there is some rehab coach app, and there are lots and lots. How do you know what app delivers what, and what app delivers what impairment? So that is something which is, I'll be discussing now. Now, there is a four different types of things which you can check. That is, one is strictly impairment based apps. Okay. And there are some apps which are AAC. So when I just wrote the keyword aphasia, you would have seen there are some apps which can be used by a medical professional to aid access or to track medical information. And also there are existing apps like Google Map, or the Siri or something, that also can be done. I'm sure you people also will be using such apps. I am also using such apps, Google calendars, so many things. So that also can be used. But what is important is, when you know this classification of what is an impairment base, what is an ASC, and what are this, so you will have an idea on, okay, when I see this app, I should see in this way. I should see, okay, this app provides me, okay, semantic feature therapy. This app provides me phonological component analysis. This app provides me speech therapy. I mean, this app provides me something like orthographic. So you will have an idea, and this app is more for ASC. So you will have an idea how to say it for your patient. Now, where do you find this information? I suggest you to go to this URL, where you can have an idea what are the price, what are the different computer softwares are available, what are the apps which are available, which company gives for free, which companies. But it is little, as I said, you need to know the evidence based, and you can also know where can you download the software. Some are very expensive, some are some $300, some are some 5,000 rupees in India. So it's something which is still there. When I come in the upcoming slides, you will have an idea like how we can develop some apps for Indian population. Most of the things is for the US, and it's in English, but you will have an idea, because if someone wants to develop such application, you need to review the existing technology, and there are lots of things how you can do it. I'm sure that this website is available. A website is will fetch you some information on different types of softwares. Uh, am I audible? Is it people are can people
Yes,
hear?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. All good.
I can continue, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is something which is very important for the speech therapist. How do you choose technology or apps for your clients? Now, I'm sure the concept over here is not like, it shouldn't be like app delivered treatment. It should be a app facilitating treatment. So which app is suitable for which client? How do you know? I'm sure while you assess your clients, or while you assess your patients, you will have an idea that, okay, the same patient, we may have to use some other therapy technique. The same patient may not go for melody intonation therapy. The same patient may not go for what do you say, the drawing therapy. So you need to know which app to be given, and what are the existing evidence. And the second concept is whether a person can independently have do a self-delivered app. So if there is a self-delivered app, so if the person is not able to do by himself the training, then it is not suitable for him. Or whether it requires some support from the caregiver, or support from the clinician. There are apps which are, or apps or software where you may require clinician support or clinician feedback throughout. There are applications where you can fade out that clinician support. So those things is important. Second thing is, you can train the caregivers on usage of application. That is one more concept which you can do. And clinician feedback and monitoring is very important, because the exercises can be sent to the personal phone. And there's something which I suggest you, for all the SLPs, including me, I do this, is also get updated with other technologies, meet and discuss with other technological friends and colleagues. Now, this is some in the left side, you can see this is how you can do a various filter for each client. The three filters is something like speech language filter, assessing the speech language filter. Second one is non-linguistic capability. So we know that the stroke or the TBI may have a lot of motor, sensory, cognitive issues. So you may have to assess that. And the technology filter is also important. In the next slide, I'll give an example how it is done. Sorry. So regarding the speech language filter, that is, you need to assess client strength and weakness, and what is the therapy. Whether you are trying something which you want to increase the intensity of therapy from your clinical component, or you are giving something which is a separate therapy, or you are focusing on different things. Now, for example, in aphasia, we know there are naming difficulties, there are auditory comprehension difficulties, there are repetition, functional communication. So everything cannot be done in one session, right? So maybe a naming can be done as a home therapy plan. Initially, you can target naming and you can give that as a home therapy plan, and slowly fade out from clinician queuing hierarchy to self delivered. So something like that you need to check with respect to speech language filter. Non-linguistic component, you may have to check for, even when you give an app, there is some buttons or some keyboards or some mouse related features are there, whether the patient is able to do such things. The apps which are developed without considering, maybe they would have completely taken the speech therapy technique into the application, but they would have not assessed with, they would have not tested in these aspects. I'm sure, for example, if you give me, I'm using an Android phone now, if you give me suddenly an iPhone, I will take some time to adjust with the application. I may not know how to use the application, or maybe even the new technology, it's something like that. So it is not consider when I have such issues, even our client may have such issue, you may have to train them. So how is a client ability to use such applications? Now, regarding the technology filter, hardware, that is very important, and even internet access. If you're having something like remote access, uh, whatever the patient is seeing, whatever the patient is doing at their home, if you want something in your clinic, the remote access facilities, we have two things, that is only data sharing, and even as a telerehab, the Skype versions are also there, but the app has not been developed. There are some options like that. But if you need some data, whether the data is being shared through email, which is little worrying, because emails are usually not that, the data privacy is not that great, whether it is shared through any databases, or these are all technological terms, databases, or things which you can see in your web page or something like that. So if the internet access is very poor, you may have to think of something like, when the internet connectivities get connected, you can share the data, something like that. It's an automatic. So these type of data sharing things are also, when you choose application, it is very important, because monitoring is one of the major concept of such things. Now, here is an example. Now let us come to the computer, and let us come to this picture. So if you are giving a reading treatment, a reading exercise for one client, there's a lot of buttons, right? I know reading requires typing and there are a lot of buttons. If you think that the motor issues are very high, then this is little difficult. The keyboards which are highlighted in yellow, this would be little difficult, because of usually aphasias are left hemisphere usually. So there would be some left hemiparesis, and you will be seeing that only the right hand would be, the client will be using it. I'm giving a hypothetical case. So when there is left side, there is some weakness. It is little difficult for giving applications which are with such keyboard. Now, because the keyboard buttons are very small, you can see the whiteboard which I've put over here. The enter button, the shift button, and the control button are usually bigger than the rest buttons. Some applications which are developed try to use only these three buttons. If you have to go back, then I have to press escape. If I have to go front, I have to press enter button. So this would be a little easier, and the buttons are also a little bigger. So something like this hardware would be preferred for persons with aphasia. Now coming to the picture which I put, this is a game picture. I didn't want to put any app picture. This type of buttons also is little difficult for clients, because there are a lot of options, and if you see, the buttons are very small and very tiny, and the font size also is very tiny. This type of application is not recommended for persons. Now, less buttons with larger buttons is recommended. That is, larger buttons options than multiple option. Even if you see, if you take your phone, there would be a lot of navigations from each page to other page. So when such applications are developed, it is little difficult for patients to use such applications. So that is important. And you may also need, if some clients, if you're giving reading therapy and if the motor skills are better, then you can go for such keyboards or things. But considering the motor difficulties, you may have to think in this way. There are some studies which say that less use of mouse is more recommended because you will be already having a keyboard, and the use of mouse is an extra work for patients. Now, smart tablets versus smartphones. I would say if smart tablets, that is iPad or Google tablets are there, go for the smart tablets because the screen size is bigger. The buttons would be a little bigger than the application, the smartphone's button or the Android phone which you people have. Now there is less buttons in smartphone and less navigation. I would recommend not to use much of speech recognition in Indian language because we have persons with aphasia may also have dysarthric errors, and there would be some other errors. I think that Google-based what do you say AI may not be able to understand. So next is, I would say that text to speech would be a better option than the speech recognition. If the person is able to type the text or write, there are some writing pads which are available now. If he is able to do that, and that would be a better option than giving a speech recognition system. I'm sure you people will be knowing about speech recognition system. The one is Siri is a best example for speech recognition system in iPhone. Now you should be very careful with the data sharing and safety because email based application data sharing is little worrying because email can be easily tracked or hacked because it's patient related data, so you need to be a little careful on those aspects also. Now coming back, I think even recently, I think Isha also has said something regarding that. Please make sure if you see any companies who are providing such services, please make sure that you see in this way. There can be other options also, but I would these are the main points which you may have to see when you are recommending something to a person with aphasia. Now, I would give some three case scenarios so that you will have an idea on how I choose the therapy for patients. So just like this is a hypothetical case, I've not taken from any patient data. So just go through it, and we'll, if you have any doubt, we can discuss in the later. So 56-year-old male, handedness would be right. She's a housewife, and she education is something 10 standard. This I would like to highlight. Education is 10 standard because when I start presenting the Indian articles, you will have an idea on why I presented the education. So these are the demographic details. So consider a person has no prior experience of smartphone usage, but the caregiver has some experience of some smartphone usage or daily usage. So if the speech therapist feels, see, this is based on each speech therapist way, what goals to be taken, what can be taken. I would take for this patient, assume that I'm not saying I'll take this, but assume that for naming related intervention, I'll use semantic features. I'll train them in the clinic, but I want to increase the intensity. So I'll give that who has home training plan for this client using any app. And I will be also, clinician also can choose some other impairments like sentence level or melody intervention therapy, or even you have a lot of VNest or so many things now, or some conversation or storytelling. And this semantic features for naming therapy, I would choose from the application, or if the patient is able to buy, or something like that. So we'll move on to the second case. So the 35-year female, she's also a housewife. Education is 7th standard. A large, in fact, in the frontal lobe. Broca's aphasia. I wanted to put Broca's aphasia with severe apraxia. Consider Broca's aphasia with severe apraxia. And prior experience to smartphone, no. And caregiver experience, yes. But has a good skill in typing. So at the speech therapy, you can go with the regular goals of in speech therapy session. What technology can be used? I had mentioned that she has good skills in typing, so you can go for speech to text option where she can have. These are already available apps in the Google Play Store. She can use that for some communication. You can also integrate some writing pads to the phone or writing pads to the tab and start doing some drawing therapy so that she can have, I'm sure you will be knowing of PACE, PACE therapy, and also some AAC based apps. So these are the points which you can think of for some patient for some duration of time. This would be not for complete thing, but when she gets her speech, maybe this can be slowly turned into impairment based approaches. Next case would be 75-year-old. He is a banker and is a graduate, and he has a prior experience of computer or maybe smartphone. he has a good reading and understanding instructions, and his goal for now would be a good fluency of speech rather than targeting on naming or targeting on some object naming or maybe verb naming. So he is little better in naming. So the goal which I would choose would be script training or VNest. So I would go for script training. I am sure you can search for script training. That's why I said in the initial slides that there are a lot of approaches for speech therapy, and each speech therapist has a different way of seeing the therapy technique. So technology wise, there is one software called aphasia script software. If the goal of the technology is to improve the intensity of script training, then you can go for this aphasia script software. But this software is a little expensive. It's around $250 to $300. But if you think that you can do something like this, even I know that you will be in clinic, you will have a lot of patients. There will be patients who will be waiting in the lobby. At that point, rather than making a client sit and do nothing, you can give some task over there. You can install a computer or install a phone or anything like that, and these type of therapy can help him or help her for better intensity of training. Now let's go to the evidence. Am I clear till now? Am I audible? Is it boring?
No, not at all. It's all good, sir.
Any questions
We
still
can
now
go on.
by people, or shall we take the questions in the end?
We can take them in the end, sir.
Okay, perfect. Now we'll go to the evidence. Now, as I said, this statement is very, very important, that physiologists should not expect computer provided therapy, because I have taken it from some author. I have put the same statement, but I would say computer provided therapy or any technology delivered therapy, it should not be considered that it is evidence is high because the clinician provided therapy is more has more efficiency. For example, if SFA is an high evidence based efficacy treatment, you cannot think that this SFA, if I implement in the Android based or computer based, that has more evidence. Though I'll be telling you what are the evidences which are available. Now, how is this evidence categorized? So there is something called practice standards, practice guidelines, and practice options. What are practice standards is when there is high number of RCT based studies. This is based on neurology or some guidelines. I'll be sharing in the end what are the guidelines. You can refer to my slides. And practice standards is something like class 1 RCT based studies. Practice guidelines is something like class 2 RCT based studies, which are a little poor in randomization and this thing. Practice options could be case series, pre-post designs. These are the study designs which are there. And in aphasiology, RCTs and experimental designs are considered as higher number of evidence. Now, I'm not going to explain the evidence based on the articles and detail you and bore you with the literature. These are the three literature which I would recommend you people to read. It will help you in understanding the efficacy or practice standards, practice guidelines, practice options. As I said, some of the articles use only, they have that study design, they use only, it's called systematic review. So they will use only RCT based studies in their inclusion. There are studies which they will use different types of study designs. There are studies which they may use a poorer study design. So these three articles provide different ways and different evidences. I mean, the evidence is same, but different articles who have used various softwares, or will give an idea on which is better, or you will have some clarity. So I would recommend these three articles. However, I'll give a brief on what they have put up in the evidence. Now, the first question in the first review article was something like, what is the effect of computer-based therapy? I'll be focusing only on computer-based, not the smart app or smartphone in this slide. For individuals with aphasia when there is no therapy. Usually, these type of studies is done with a control group RCT or with a deferred treatment RCT. For example, there will be two groups. One group will be going for treatment, other group will be not going for treatment. But nowadays we have like the same group. What they'll do is for some time they will not give therapy, that is deferred treatment, and then they'll start giving therapy. So these type of study designs are seen. There are softwares which I've mentioned over here. One is oral reading software, which targets reading comprehension, oral expression, and auditory comprehension. Most of the things are word finding and reading therapy. And there is one software which uses treatment underlying forms. It is more of a sentence related production and comprehension. So these are the some articles which is eligible for this question. I'm not saying these are the only four articles which have been focused for software based studies. These are eligible to be answered with this question. Now, how is the evidence seen? For example, when a new therapy is done, it is being compared with the standard therapy. For example, a COVID virus medicine is come. It has to be compared with the standard therapy. That is, for now, there is no therapy. Okay. Similarly, in speech therapy based assessment or speech therapy based intervention, the standard of therapy before was nothing. There was no therapy. So they compared speech therapy versus no therapy, and they saw, okay, the speech therapy was better. That's how this type of cases you can give speech therapy. Similarly, when it comes for such evidences, what they compared is computer based therapy, where you give some patient computer therapy and some group computer based therapy and some group with no therapy. These are how usually a scientific evidences are there. This is important because the scientific evidence usually attempts to test in ideal situation. Ideal situation is the researcher should be very sure that it is only because of the therapy that they have improved. Okay, but in clinical situation it's not that. So these type of evidences will help you in a research based studies. It's not for a clinical, you cannot do such things in a clinical thing because you are not seeing a client in an ideal condition, rather than you are seeing him as a patient. Okay, so these are the articles which have been which is suitable for answering this question, and this is based on the review. I'm not saying anything which is not from the review. Now consider this question, and the first article used the reading based ORLA treatment. What they have seen is the overall Western aphasia battery aphasia quotient is improving, writing is improving clinically but not statistically significant. I am sure you people will have some idea on content information units. That is, when you record the speech, you have some ways to evaluate and assess, and words per minute, that is something like speech rate in discourse. So there were improvements in this, but there were no improvement in writing. There were no statistical improvement in writing. So this is very concerning because ORLA doesn't use anything with respect to writing, or doesn't use a writing pad or something. Maybe that can be added and you can check the similar study whether it is working or not. This is for the people who are want to do research. But ORLA is strictly in English. All the articles are in English language, not in Indian language. Now the second article, which says use the naming therapy, that is the study which says there is no improvement when the control or treatment group is checked. The third article, where still the reading therapy, the oral VAB, the PICA POSH indexed scores, and the verbal scores has improvement, but the other domain has no improvement. So now it's, yeah, there's one more. There is two more which has been naming therapy, and the improvement is usually seen in object naming battery score. And the other article also, when they used treatment underlying forms, these are the things which got improved and these are the things which not got improved. This is very important because it's not like one therapy can target all the domains, and maybe the WAB AQ would have improved, but you need to be very careful that there are different domains of where the impairment can be seen, and this application or this software can improve only this what do you say, impairment or this domain. The other domains you can work in the therapy, or you can slowly fade out the which can be used as an application. Now it is very important to know that are the properties of computer therapy programs. Over there you saw how the reading therapy in two different studies showed different improvement. Overall there is improvement, but in each application or even each client would have seen some different way of improvement. I suggest you to go back and read that article so that you will have more idea. And how is the stimulus being delivered, and how is the delivery of queuing hierarchy. Each client may have a different queuing hierarchy. How are the types of queues provided? That is very important. And you would have seen, if you go back and read that article, the feedback of clinicians was different. Some cases the clinicians went to their house, so that is something like clinician charm, which usually say there could be some clinician charm, and that feedback is also important. And phone call interview were also seen. Overall, we can say that naming, reading, sentence, and some of the linguistic component which we were using as a workbook based therapy can be implemented in this type of technology. Now, you need to know that what are you need to be careful on what are the domains are improving from this research, and these can be implemented as home practice and work on therapy goals which cannot be delivered through computers. This is something which is very important, and the intensity of such therapy which can be improved through computer based practice can be done faster, so that you have an higher intensity for that goal. For example, naming can be an higher intensity at home and clinician, because you'll be getting some 2 sessions and you can monitor how many minutes he has practiced, how many pictures he has practiced, so those things can be seen. Second question is, I'll go a little faster from here on the evidence, because there is already in the literature, you can go back and read. Second question is, what is the effect of computer therapy in comparison with clinician delivered therapy? This is done the same therapy technique. One is been delivered through computer, one it is delivered to clinician. The naming treatment when it is clinician, one is done by the computer. So the WAB-AQ, as I said, when you administer WAB-AQ, there will be some improvement, but the WAB reading was improved when a clinician is giving therapy. Here, the control means clinician. Okay. In the previous slide, the control means no therapy. Here, the control means clinician. So the WAB reading was improved when this type of therapy was implemented. When a clinician delivered therapy, WAB reading was improved. Similarly, these were the tasks which could be improved through computer-based therapy. Okay. Is this going above the head for people, or is it fine now?
It is good, sir. It's we have got some comments from a few people. They are appreciating. No, sir, you are amazing. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Coming back to the smartphones, which is everybody wants to know now, because everybody has smartphones. So this evidence, the target domain is naming, and when they used, you could see there would be very small sample sizes, because I said the research is little different in aphasiology, and yes, I'll present this. There are many, but I'll be presenting only 2 for now, which has dominated the whole smartphone-based aphasiatherapy, that is tactus therapy. You can actually have a free trial of some 10 or 15 pictures of tactus therapy in the application, like how I showed you that time. So it is, I think, naming therapy. So you can check how the therapy works in there. The second one is constant therapy. This is from Boston. So they have different tasks with respect to language and cognition. With respect to these two are mainly cognitive neuropsychological approaches, that is SFA, or training with respect to semantics, phonological. So this type of therapy has been there. What they say is, when extra intensity of smartphone based therapy is implemented, the outcomes are better in the assessment. So these are 2 major studies, but it doesn't mean that there are no other studies. There are many studies, but I don't want to bombard you with studies, which is not important at this time, but there are evidences for this. And over here, it is very important to see that both the studies has been applied when smart tablets are used, not smartphones are used. I think it is, you people are getting what I'm trying to say. There are computers, smart tablets, and smartphones. Smart tablets are iPad, smartphones are Android. These 2 studies implemented smart tablets, okay, and the evidence is for smart tablets and not smartphone. And I think you people will understand, because the button, the size of the screen, everything matters when these type of things are there. Now, if I have to give a summary, considering if you don't give therapy, that is very poor. You can, if the patient is not able to come to therapy or something, you can at least recommend him some computer applications. And some of the therapy tasks, usually there are like naming, not even some patients or some studies say computer delivery of naming or some task can be equal to what clinician is delivering. Now, feedback is very important. And among all technological aphasia intervention, computers have higher evidence. I had shared you some literature. You can go back the 3 literature which I showed, and this is how things are. computer evidence is better than the smart tablet intervention or the smartphone intervention. And for now, smartphones can be considered as practice options. It cannot be considered as practice standards. Now, if I have to give an example, what is a practice standard? I'm sure if you people have to assess a client with aphasia, I'm sure everybody will use a Western aphasia battery test because that is considered as practice standards. Practice guidelines would be some other assessment tool. Practice options would be use of some other assessment tool. Something like this. Smartphones is only considered as practice options for now. We need more evidence. However, doesn't mean that you cannot use that. You can use, but it should be little taken care. Now, there are other softwares which targets different approaches. Aphasia scripts is one. There are some YouTube videos you can check because the software costs little higher, so you can check for this. And nowadays there is also some attempts for gesture therapy. This is an article. I'm not going on detail for each and every article what impairment has been used or what therapy has been used. Uh, you know that the aphasia therapy believes in two major concepts, that is restitute therapy and substitute therapy. Okay, restitute therapy is whatever is impaired, you are trying to improve the same concept, and the substitute therapy would be something like the right hemisphere functions. So usually the gesture therapy and all, or intonation therapy and all, are considered as right hemisphere functions. So you can implement. Some individual may require both the therapy, that is restitute plus substitute, like semantic features plus gesture, or maybe phonological component analysis plus some other therapy for naming component itself. So you can go with this because when you see a research evidence, it doesn't mean that one paper will tell you, okay, this is one approach, you are going to do it the same thing in clinic. You may have to use different approaches. For auditory comprehension, there are set of approaches which you may have to use. For naming, you have to use some approach. For functional communication, you need to have some approaches. So that's how you need to see a client with respect to different domains of impairment, and each client will have different. The reading of one client will be poorer, the speech comprehension would be better. So each client you need to assess in this way. Don't only see the WAB AQ scores. That's what I'm trying to say. And if there are some other test materials which you can assess with respect to aphasia rehab, please administer that. Don't only stick for aphasia, Western aphasia battery. So now coming back to Western versus Indian scenario. So in the West, this technology-based could be implemented from 1980s to 2020, and it is changing every day. Now, when I come in the end of my slides, you will have idea on what are the virtual reality, mixed reality, and those things. Attempts have been done because there were people who were using such devices. The normal people, the people like us, were using computers. People were using smart tablets. People were using smartphones. But now in India, it's not the same. As I said, how many people have iPad with you? How many people have smart tablets with you? You don't have. When users are not there of such device, you may not know how to use it. I know it's little a little interesting that when the users are not there, how can it recommend such devices? Okay, so the end users are not the same in India, and not many apps or softwares is available in Indian context or Indian languages, Kannada, Malayalam, Hindi, not much available. There are available. I'll show you some, but it is not available in the market. But let's see how in the coming future how it is there. And one more important thing is evidence is also very poor. Now consider one therapy technique which is implemented in English. It may not be same in India because our languages are different. For example, the Kannada language is more of alpha syllabary and has a higher morphosyntax language than English. Okay, so the same therapy technique which has been used in West, it is a little difficult to implement over here because you need to think in this aspect also. That is in the regular speech therapy. Now, when you come to technologies with speech therapy, this type of evidence has to be seen. So be a little careful when you recommend any application in Indian scenario also. Now, this is very interesting study, which the first one which I would like to present. This is an software in Malayalam which has been used, and they've also used RCT-based design. What they've done is they've divided two groups. One group they've given only speech language therapy, and the other group they have given speech language therapy plus computer application. That is, they have increased the intensity. In other words. So now, what are the targets? The pace, the melody intonation therapy, that input phoneme therapy has been used. What they have said is Though the intensity has been increased in group 2, there is no difference between SLT plus SLT plus computer therapy. What they've attributed is 12th standard or education is very important for people to use computer based therapy, and the acceptability of the computer application, because we don't have much people who knows how to use the computers. I'm not saying we don't have, we have a very widespread people. Some people may know it better, some people may have no idea how to use a computer. So these things has to be confirmed. So this study is very important because there is a very poor evidence for technology based rehab, especially in computer in Indian scenario. Now, in Ishakon 2015, I have seen one more article. The abstract is available, but it is not available in full length. Uh, they have used they have used these target domains, that is auditory comprehension, functional communication, naming. I think it is a therapy manual which has been put into computerized version, and they have shown some improvement with this aspect. So considering this, there is only two evidences in computer based rehabilitation. There are some few in telerehabilitation, but I'm not focusing on those over here. So these are the evidences which needs to be grown in Indian scenario, and there is a lot of scope over here. In terms of Android versions, the recent one, they have used constant therapy application in Hindi, and it was a case series. 18 persons with aphasia. What they have done is some 20 tasks from constant therapy. As I said, the constant therapy has various language and cognitive tasks. What they have done is they have divided into different group with their patients. That is younger adults, adults with little old, and very old adults. So what they've seen is there is a difference between three people. The younger adults could do it better. The older adults also could do better, but the middle age, the adults had difficulty to use. But everybody had a task compliance of 90% when there was a caregiver support. Now, that is what I wanted to highlight here. If you see the Western evidence, the self-delivered application could be used. Persons with aphasia could use the application and could have the therapy by themselves. But over here, it is not the same. Here, whatever task was done, you had to have a caregiver with the patient for therapy to be delivered. That is what is called task compliance. Okay. Is the evidence clear? There are a lot of other articles, but I don't want to tell all those. You can refer this. I just want to give an idea on how is the evidence. Is it clear? Am I boring you people at your weekend?
No, sir. We can go ahead.
Okay.
It's actually interesting, sir.
Now, this is something for people who want to develop their own application. You require some support, I agree, but some idea I can give, because in my master thesis, I could have such team to develop one application, and I am also working with some other team now. I'll be giving you an idea in the upcoming slide. If you're interested to develop your intervention in technology domain, what is required? I know first is finance, but I've not put that in over here because developing an application is not easy. It requires a lot of finance, but not only finance, there are some other things which is required. One is team building with all the stakeholders. So now consider that you want to develop a web page where it will be SLP domain, so that you can send your personalized stimulus for each clients, or you can personalize the therapy technique in naming or something like that. And the end user, that is person with aphasia, will be having an Android app which will be self-delivered. Okay, this is a technology idea, and you just imagine. Now you need these stakeholders to test it, to provide an evidence, to see how it is going on. One is software developers who has an idea of how to develop a web page, because web page is developed in some other format, which is HTML, and Android is written in some other format. You need Java for writing that codes, and you have a database, and the Android app has to connect to the database. Android app has to connect to the web page. So there are a lot of things. I can give you information, but that is something like MySQL database, SQL database. So you need to talk with these software developers. And what is database, or what is a concept is there is something called server space. Okay, it's something like a huge computer, or you have a Google Drive. That is the best example. How does Google Drive work is somewhere in the globe, or somewhere in some office, there are some huge computers with huge TB of hard drive, and you try to store. They give you some space over there to store your data. That's how the cloud cloud goes. So web page is just a HTML. So to store the data, you need some of the server space, and that is why I told you some finance and some things. And web page also has to have some certificates so that it is safe for your data and those things. So these informations you'll get from your software developers, and you can have an idea on how to do. But that team building is very important when you try to develop such intervention program. And there is not one person in software developers. One person will develop web page, one person will have an idea of what is database, one person will have Android app. So it's a team which I would suggest. And in perspectives of software development, and I'll give an example on how this could be done in aphasia technology intervention in aphasia. There is something called end user research. Now, for example, you have a plan of delivering semantic feature or orthography or phonemic cueing in for persons with aphasia. How will you implement it in a technology, or how will you implement it in Android? You need to make some flow diagrams or make designs. As I said in the previous concept, navigation, buttons, all those things has to be. You cannot give many navigation, like there are thousands of pages or thousands of screens. You cannot do that, because that will cost you so much, and that is not also recommended for people. Okay. Now, after you make a design, you have to discuss with your software developers and then try to make a prototype design. Okay, it's just without testing. When you can see it in your computer, when you can see it in your Android application, that is called prototype. Usually we have alpha beta sustained project. That's how the software has been developed. And then end user. Now, considering the above example, the web page for the SLP domain, then he is or the she is end user. Android app, if the person with aphasia is using, he or she is in the end user. You need to test both. You need to test when various SLP people use the web page, how they are using, how feasible it is, what all changes are there. That is how the testing is done. It is not only in here, any technology concept comes, that is how the end user testing is done. Now, for example, if you have a concept of you will do an application where the Android would be the SLP and the Android also will be the SLP. That's how the constant therapy is. And then you may have to think in that way, that the Android application which you are developing for SLP has to be tested. Okay, that's what is called end user testing. Then iterative prototyping. This is where the something like evidence where it comes. You need to test with some scientific evidence. I assume the first two topics, that is end user research. End user research, most of the application, when you Google it or when you type that aphasia in Play Store, most of them would have not done the end user research, because they would have just saw the Google and thought, okay, semantic feature helps, I'll do something like that in the app. That's a very wrong concept which people have done, and those are the apps which you should be very careful when you recommend. Prototype design, I'm sure this is more of a software developer's job, and that's how most of the application, that's how I said applications where therapy technique is implemented but there is no efficacy based studies. There are lots of apps like that in the Google Play Store or something. Then comes user study of solution. After efficacy, then you can do it in large scale, or you can ask the patients. Okay, these are all scientific investigations. Okay, these are not for clinical clinicians. This is for someone who are interested to develop. These are some of the situation. And when the user study of solutions is done, you should also have, because when you upload the app in Google Play Store, you need to create an account in Google Play Store that costs you some $25 to $50. And you would have seen there are some freely available app. Best example is WhatsApp and Instagram, because the users are very high. There are millions of users. That's how you are able to sustain such application. But these type of application, now considering each patient is different type of impairment, one patient may require semantic, one person may require phonological, different apps are available. So to maintain it is not easy, because there are some renewal of accounts, and you need to update the application. You cannot use the same application, so that updation may require some help from or some services from software developers. So these are the things. These are very vague idea which I'm trying to give. There are so many things which you need to consider, but I am just evoking some thoughts in your mind in this domain. Now, as you people are, most of them are SLPs, isn't it? So how aphasiology, how end user research can be done? There is one article how it is a qualitative study. They have said how it can be done. Therapy task, what they say is range of language tasks can be implemented. So as I said, the applications could be more than a pen and paper. You don't have to carry all those stimulus with you, all the pictures with you. Flexibility, that is, it has to be done with at home and with a one click access. You cannot keep multiple buttons. You cannot keep username, password, email ID confirmation, OTP transfer, so many things that has to be done at one point. And you should not make that such because it is little difficult for them to remember. Even I find difficult to remember my password, and I am very thankful to my Google account because it gives me all type solutions to remember my password. Now stimulus, most of the applications have American, targeted to American audience, the pictures. Even if you Google, if you type Apple or something, you will, or some other concept, you will not see some pictures which are as an Indian audience. So even the voices are also for American audience. So there were some reports that people from US, sorry, people from UK, Australia, the English what they use, it's not similar. So it is a little difficult. And that's what the photographs are mainly for the American audience, so it needs to be little seen. There's one more concept. Most of the application use child based stock images. Okay, that is very concerning because it may not be appreciated by people. Okay, it's past 5 o'clock. So you guys want me to continue, or shall I go a little fast?
We can continue, sir. We can continue.
What time we started? 5:15, 5
Yeah,
4:15.
it's been an area.
Okay, I'll. Okay, there are only 15 slides, so I can finish it fast. Okay, so next is queuing. So it is different. It can be with respect to different, category of nouns or category of verbs or category of concepts, which can be done, and hierarchy of cues which can be used. You can go and refer, download the app of Tactus Therapy. You will have an idea of how queuing hierarchy is done, and these cues has to be determined by clinicians. Like how I said in speech therapy also, that is been determined by clinicians. The same thing in application, you can tell the person, okay, seeing your profile, seeing your impairment, the semantic cues is getting, you are getting better. So you can use or recommend such app, or you can make applications, or you can do applications with multiple options, but the clinician can recommend, okay, this patient is better for this type of queuing, something like that. Okay, and even multimodal cues also can be used, gesture based cues or first letter cues. So these are the things which you can, don't restrict to only one cues, or don't restrict to only semantic features, or don't restrict to phonological. Keep an option when you develop everything. Let the clinician decide what type of therapy has to be given for the client. That's how you can think of when you're interested in developing. And accessibility is one more important concept where you need to think of what platform to be used. That is, don't use with requires a lot of mouse. That's what I gave one picture example at that time. And also it needs to be, the application has to needs to be navigation, and those concepts has to be done. And some of the executive functioning also needs to be thought of before. It needs to be little user friendly. Don't keep a lot of complex tasks. That's what I'm trying to explain over here. These are not told by me. These are told in the literature. There are some other evidence, some other literature. What are the font size has to be used? What are the picture quality has to be used? Don't use the childlike stock images. Don't use the buttons. Don't give a childlike based reinforcement. Okay. Don't give more of a feedback based reinforcement, and then that is more approachable. Now I'll give an example how we developed in my master thesis. This is the end user research which I done. I thought, okay, something like this we can do for our client. That is, we had done a thorough user knowledge, therapy technique, what type of therapy has to be done, how should your app look, how should your software look, what are the features required. Some idea on this you can make by yourself. You don't require software designers. This you can make, and something like this was my idea. And then when I submitted my thesis, this is how I could do. This is in Kannada, so I'll try to explain for the larger audience. This is something like a baseline. We try to implement the phonological training in persons with aphasia in Kannada. And we make sure, here you would have seen the background is not that great. We have kept a simple background. The colors are not that very very not bright. So it's simple. And the queuing hierarchy, this is how we have kept the queuing hierarchy for clients. And regarding the reinforcement, what I was talking, you cannot give a child like reinforcement. So this is something like feedback what we were trying to give, and this is one more feedback which we were trying to give, and whatever the client is able to do, we were monitoring from the web page. Okay, for example, this is a target picture which we were targeting. So over here, the target picture, how they used, what are the cues they used, these are the information which could be accessed to the web page as the client is able to do. And I understand, because our situation, our geographical location is such a way that there could be remote based therapy, so the internet connectivity was an issue. So what we did is, when the internet connectivity achieves, that has to be transferred. So that's something like that feature we used for our clients, so that was helpful for our people when these things were used. So next topic, the last topic is regarding the virtual reality. Do you want to immerse yourself into a new technology and some recent? What is virtual reality? What are the different types? I would like to say. So this is something very emerging and new technology in aphasia rehabilitation. Initially, it was in gaming, it was in military services, it was in automobile industry, real estate, business, mental health, and cognitive rehab, and then the physiology. What's new in this? It's something like you can have a controlled simulated environment. It can give some of the real-time experiences. I'm sure you would know about various uh, devices. I'll give an idea on how is it. Some of the things is learning. Everyone would have gone for driving skills, learning a driving. So learning driving skills to simulation, you would have had a simulation before they gave you the car. Or crossing the street, this is something like cognitive rehab, which is done, executive functioning and other things. And in stroke rehab, physiotherapists also use this type of this thing. In terms of medical, it is highly used in academic and also to show the anatomy, to show the surgery or something. In terms of gaming, I used to play a lot of playstations, and this is how initially it was being used by people, and this the same thing can be implemented in physiology. So these are some of the terminologies which is important: immersive versus non-immersive. Okay, immersive is when you use some glass, head mounted glass, those are called immersive. Non-immersive is, in the second picture you would see he has not used any glass, but there's some 3D or some concept which has been playing over there, and it has been recording. So this is more of a stroke rehab, and that is how the difference between immersive and non-immersive. You can do the YouTube based search, you will have an idea. And how it is being put, there is something called virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Virtual reality is something like the whole thing will be immersed, the whole 3D environment will be immersed. The first one, first picture. Second one is it's something like in a real environment situation, you are able to get some task. This is highly used in automobile industry, like you can open the car or something like that. Mixed is both virtual and both augmented reality. You can do some YouTube search. How are the devices used? There are a lot of devices. You can implement this in web page. I'm sure you would all know about online gaming, where they have used this 3D. So that is also something like virtual reality, and it's there in physiology. I'll be presenting some of the cases. And virtual reality glasses, even smartphones. Best example is PUBG, which is not available now. That's also some. And I assume that there was some app called Go Pokemon Go something that uses augmented reality, because if someone would have played those games, you would have an idea of such things. So all these images are taken from Google. So don't take any screenshot for that, because I've not got any permissions to put these images. This is only to explain the concept to you guys. So now, why this is important? Because speech therapy is usually a didactic interaction between clients and clinician. So you call the clients to your clinic, so there are only two people. You can include a lot of people, but there is no natural environment which has been used. Ideally, you need to train all these clients in natural environment. The initial therapy, that is workbook based therapy, or even any therapy, that substitute or restitute, I just said you that time, that is usually considers the direct interaction between client and clinicians, that is one-to-one therapy or something. But the new approaches, that is functional approaches or LPA, it considers natural environment and training. For example, if you have to have a conversation in a grocery or in a market or in a doctor's appointment, you are ideally supposed to do training over there. But this could be difficult and it is not controlled, and it clinician cannot be present at that time because you know the practicality of these issues. So this type of immersive technology can facilitate the clinicians to do such therapy. It may not give you the real world experience, and it may not give you real therapy, but it can facilitate. Initially, even the executive based training, that is what they say, that it can facilitate to make sure that it is a controlled environment, and we can have a go signal for the person to go to the real world environment, something like that. So there is ongoing attempts on these things over here. I'm sure I'll not go on literature, but I've put over here. So there is one work going on in UK, which is non-immersive web page based aphasia therapy. They also have a web, immersive based. Aphasia script has an virtual animated therapist. So there is a virtual therapist who will be giving. So these are the YouTube link. You just have to Google, put YouTube may aphasia scripts. You will get an idea. You just put Eva Park. You will have idea on how that has been done. It is more of a gaming or online rated platform. This is also in YouTube where they've used mixed reality over there. So these are some of the recent evidences for such things. You can note down and you can rate. People who are PGs or people who are into research or something will have an idea on how the new technology is coming. Now we are also working, as I mentioned, about my guide to you all in the initial time, and we have got something for funding or a grant for developing such things in Indian scenario. So we are working on this, and we have completed, as I said, there are various steps to develop the application. That is the end user research, prototype designing. We have completed the second part, that is prototype, and this is we are still testing it. It is a 3 or 4 years project, and this is our team which we are working, and I'll show a glimpse of it. It's the reports or the technology is not yet been released, so I have to be very cautious on saying all these things, because it's not only it's a group of team members, and my guide has given specific permission for this to present over here. So this is very important. So hopefully our reports are get accepted in journals, so then I can I can give a better idea. This is something like HoloLens device which we had used. This is a mixed reality program. It's still in testing, so don't worry about all these things. This is not for the client. So no, yeah. So here the topic is the 3D. This is a restaurant scenario where we are immersing the 3D situation, 3D into that is the virtual reality, and the augmented reality, that is the real world experience. The clinician will be there with him to help the client how to use this type of what do you say, the therapy what we use is traditional therapy. We have implemented the traditional therapy into the Microsoft HoloLens immersive therapy, where the 3D is been in the virtual mode, and 2D, not 2D, the augmented mode will be the therapist who will be on the screen. This is just an example to show. You can see there is a blackboard or something which has been written over there, so you can see both has been immersed over there. And this is how something like a concept which we had, and we are still working on it. Hopefully better version comes soon, and then I'll be in a better position to show you, or some research. We are still working on it, so this is something which is emerging, and this is what we are working. Coming back to the summary, technology has made a remarkable growth, and various attempts and research has been done in technology-based rehabilitation. Technology is expected to provide more than paper and method because of the concept which I've said. And technology changes. For example, computers, Android, virtual reality, the SLP needs to be aware. And my presentation attempts to provide an overview of various technology. There are others, something like transcranial direct stimulation. Those are not speech therapy based, but there are some other concepts also which I have not highlighted over here. But there are some other concepts. But considering the time, and this is what I would like to end, and some of the references. People who wants to go back and check and see what are there, so you can go. And I hope I have not bored you all, and it's a weekend and it's not my office time also, so I am ready to take questions now if we have time.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. We do not have questions as such, but definitely we have a lot of comments. Presentation has been really helpful, amazing, and information has been novel And yeah, so you can see those comments, and we have one question, sir. It says, sir, can we say that it is a technology prescription since it's different for every client?
Uh, at this point of time, we should not say that it is a technology prescription because we require. It's an ongoing therapy. It is not like only you can go and give a technology services for one person, and that is not what I am trying. It should be not. It should be not like the softwares or the app is. Therapy delivery. That should not be the concept. It is the concept of improving the intensity, improving the practice. So we all know practices makes things or the concept better. So that is what I am trying to highlight over here. Practices is more important, so this can be helped over there.
Yeah.
So some of my classmates have given some comments. Aishwarya has given some comments. Pooja has given. Tushar has given comments. Okay.
Right. So, sir, as it's been a really novel field for most of us, like most of us are master students, and we are yet to come to discover this. And you have really put insights in our mind that we'll go back and check whatever you have said. It is like it's the thinking direction has been created, and I think that was your motto, our motto, that we should be doing that by this presentation. So that's definitely covered. We thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Thank you
Uh,
for this opportunity. And as I said, I am new to this. I'm also not that experienced, but I could. Uh, oh, my senior is also there. Yes. Annalisa is my senior. Thank you for your comment, Annalisa. I missed that focused aphasia group talk recently, but I'll come back for that. Uh, yes, so I have tried my level. I think Annalisa also has worked something in technology related, aphasia therapy, if I'm not wrong. I have tried my attempt. I have just an experience of some 1 2 years, but I've tried to give you an overview of most of the research or how it can be done based on my experience. I hope everybody understood and I've not bored you all. So thank you so much. And yes, it's left to the organizers. What shall we end the
yeah,
meeting now?
yeah, we can end. I would like to thank you, sir, and all the participants for giving your valuable time. And in case any questions, queries are there, we'll be happy to take them. Sir has provided his email ID. I'm sure you can definitely email him, trouble him with your questions. And yeah, I think we can end the meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.